Hello friends, and welcome to yet another video from Kulture Katha. Deepavali may be the festival of lights in the north of India, but the festival of lamps in the south, called Karthigai Deepam or Karthiga, is celebrated 2 or 4 weeks after Deepavali. This festival falls on the full moon day of the Tamil month of Karthigai, when the moon is believed to enter the constellation called Krithika or Pleiades. So Krithika or Pleiades is one such constellation that includes 6 very bright stars. In our Puranic lore, these 6 stars were imagined as the 6 wives of the prominent seers called the Saptarishis. The story of the 6 wives of the 6 rishis giving birth to a child each, and each of these 6 children later on merging into one body and becoming the god Kartikeya, is narrated in the Mahabharata and the Skanda Purana. But the reference to the Krithika constellation, according to some, dates back even further. Several amateur enthusiasts and scholars researching the seals of the Indus Valley civilization claim that the 7 women-like figurines seen on a Harappan seal is actually a depiction of the Krithika constellation. While this idea remains just a theory for now, what we do know for certain is that this day of Kartik Purnima held special significance for the people of ancient Tamilagam. We find several references to this day in Sangam Tamil literature that is dated to nearly 1700 to 2300 years back. These ancient references make Karthigai Deepam one of the oldest festivals that's being celebrated even today. These Sangam literary poems make specific references to the astronomical event when the moon enters the Krithika constellation and the month is called Karthigai. The poems also mention that lamps are lit in the houses during this month, which is also considered the month best suited for doing good deeds. But what made this day special for the ancient Tamils? We may have the first clue in one of the poems from a Sangam anthology called Ahananur. Here we find a girl reassuring her friend that her husband or lover who had remained separated from her for long will come back to her on the special day just as the moon comes back to the Arumeen or the 6 stars after a long period of separation. Now this is typical of a Sangam age love poem where very often the Nayika is shown to eagerly await the return of her lover, who is either gone to war to help his king or is out on the high seas for trade. We do know that the ancient Tamils were big time seafarers and carried on overseas trade with several Southeast Asian and Mediterranean countries. And the Tamil month of Karthigai also marks the period of the retreating monsoons when the winds blowing from the northeast enable sailors from the eastern coast to make their sea voyages to and from the far off lands of Southeast Asia, carrying their merchandise. While the blowing winds were favorable for sea voyages, it was also a period of violent weather, marked by cyclonic storms along the east coast. This may have prompted women at home to come together to pray for the safe voyage of their lovers and husbands by lighting lamps. These lamps must have brought great cheer to people anxious about the dark skies and the safe return of their heroes. We may have the second clue in a similar festival celebrated in Odisha, another state on the eastern coast, once known as Kalinga and for its rich maritime past. The seafaring heritage of Odisha is reflected in the ancient festival called Bali Yatra, which is celebrated on Kartik Purnima even today. It appears that in the past, on this day, women and children gathered on the seashore to light oil lamps, place them on boats made of palm leaf, and set them afloat in a gesture of bidding goodbye to their dear ones, the dear ones setting sail to Bali and other islands of Indonesia for trade. And of course, praying for their safe journey on the high seas and their eventual return to their homelands. So it's possible that the original reasons for the lamp festival may be steeped in India's ancient maritime traditions. But friends, times change, people change, and stories change too. And so with time, this festival came to acquire different dimensions. Today, in the temples of Tamil Nadu, Karthigai Deepam is celebrated as a festival of the god Shiva and his son Skanda. The most important of these temples is the Arunachaleshwarar temple at Tiruvannamalai near Chennai. This temple is one of the 5 Panchabhuta Sthalas, or temples associated with the 5 elements, including earth, fire, water, air, and ether. In this temple, Shiva is represented in the form of fire. On the evening of the Kartik Purnima, a fire is lit on top of a mountain behind the temple in an enactment of the popular myth when Shiva appears in the form of a huge and endless column of fire. Just as Shiva is represented as fire, Skanda too is considered to be a fiery god born to Shiva and Agni. In the southern version of the Skanda Purana, he is said to be born from the sparks of fire that emanated from Shiva's third eye. His fiery birth makes him a warrior god, very masculine and virile. Once he was born, he was wet nursed by the Kritika women, the wives of the 6 sages, which is why Skanda came to be known as Kartikeya. So Karthigai Deepam is also celebrated as a festival hailing the birth of Skanda in the Murugan temples of the south. The event marked by the celestial phenomenon when the moon enters the Kritika constellation. Rows and rows of oil lamps are lit on the temple premises to celebrate the event. It's quite a beautiful sight to behold. Friends, see how beautifully different myths are woven together around celestial and natural phenomena to make a lovely story and an associated ritual. You can choose to either celebrate the celestial event or the gods or the rich maritime past of ancient India. So till I meet you all once again over yet another interesting story, it's tata, bye bye, take care.